Hi there, Jeremy Cook for Flip the Switch Education with a quick Unity tutorial on adding videos to textures and game objects within your game. This can be a really great thing to do to let your game have some dynamic functions to it without having to go nuts and creating a lot of UI. So what I'll do is I'll show you an example of what I've done in this project. So what I've done is I've created some very short video clips through an outside program that I use called WeVideo. You have access to so many different clips that you can use. And I've taken them, and instead of creating like a UI system where there's animations through the UI, I built these very small, very light videos, and then I attach them to these screens so it makes them look like a screen. So I will show you that example, and you can see these monitors are running, and these are giant monitors. This is a VR game, so you come in to the VR game, and these are as tall as the game player. And you can see how they are very dynamic looking. They're very, very small. Most of these are only half a megabyte. So they're really small videos, but they really add dynamism to the project and they really make it look nice without having to go and do all the animations. The videos do it for you. So here we have a screen, and all this screen is a basic object. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just a 3D cube that's stretched, named screen. Really easy. I just threw a plastic material on it. We're not going to worry about that. So what you want to do is bring in a video. So we're going to add this video here. Just drag it into your folder, wherever you want to put that in. And then over here on this side, you're going to see, depending on what you want to use it for, you probably want to transcode it. I clicked this default for Android because I'm using it for an Oculus game. But there's these, you can bring in dimensions, you can make it square, you can make it 3/4 resolution. There's options for that. So if you want to put it on a square side of a cube, for example, you could do that. You can flip it, and you can import the audio. So if you have audio with the video, this is where you would do that. So once you do that, you click apply and it comes in. So here's your video down here. The first step is very simple. You choose where you want this to go, and then you're going to drag it onto the game object, but do not drag it onto the inspector, because if you drag it on the inspector, here's what it'll do. It's going to create its own separate game object. So then there's going to be two game objects, one that's just the video player and one that's the screen. And for this tutorial, we just don't want it to do that because it makes it a little bit more complicated. So we're going to just delete that, and we're going to take that exact same video and we're just going to drag it and drop it into the hierarchy onto the screen. And that will just add the component of a video player. The other thing you can do, it's an extra step, but it can be done so you can kind of see how that works, is you can add a component and add in a video player component to this. This will have the video clip empty spot, and then you just drag that video over there. Okay, so now that that's in there, there's a few things that we have to do. Depending on how you've done it before, depending on what else is going on, this render mode, which is how is the video going to render, how is it going to show up on the screen, might be a couple different things. It could be camera, far, or near plane. For this one, there's two things that you can do here. There's render texture and there's material override. Material override is basically going to take the video and it's going to override the current material. The issue with that is that the video itself is not going to look all that great. So the other way to make it look nicer and look a little bit more crisp and clean is to actually create a material. So what we're going to do is go in and create our own folder, and I'm going to create this folder that I call render textures. Then we're going to right click, we're going to create a render texture. And then I'm going to name it whatever it is for this specific video wall that I'm doing. Then when you come up here, you're going to look at these settings. The important thing here, the first one is if you're only going to have this 2D screen up here, you're not doing anything fancy with depth, just change this depth buffer to no depth buffer. And then up here, this is important to the size. What is the video that you're importing? So if you're importing a 256 by 256, then that'll work. If not, it's going to look weird. So the ones that I'm importing are 1280 by 720. So I'm going to change that 1280 by 720. So now this is ready to go. But right now it's pretty much nothing. So I'm going to go into another folder, or you can just do it right here. So we'll do it here so you can see it. And I'm going to create a material, and I'm going to call this the same as my render material. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my albedo, and I'm going to drag that render material that we just created, and I'm going to drag it into my albedo, and then I'm going to click emission, and I'm going to drag it into emission, because monitors and screens have their own emissive qualities. So if you don't bring that emission in there, it's going to look very muted and it won't look right. And then you're going to rely on the lighting from the scene to light that monitor, and that's just not how it works, right? Like if you think a monitor has its own lights, depending on what type of game, you can either have it as real time or as baked. It works either way. And you'll notice that it's black. The reason why it's black is because it won't render until that video starts. So it'll kind of click in and out. It'll look a little bit strange. But for right now, we're set. So now we go back to where we're putting it. So we're going onto this screen here. Notice how there's this matte plastic is already there. We're not going to worry about that right now. It doesn't matter what material's already on, because we're just going to replace it. What does matter is to make sure this is all good up here and that we change render mode to render texture. As soon as you do that, you're going to get this target texture. So instead of the target texture being the mesh, which it was before, the target texture is now this render texture that we just built. So we're going to drop it into our target texture. You can fix the aspect ratio however you want to do it. You can do audio mode, either the audio source or the direct. The direct is not going to give you the option for 3D sound. So I suggest that if you want this monitor and there's like sound playing from the monitor, if you want it to be realistic, you do the audio source, because that's going to allow you to set up the audio source. And that way it will give you that option to have it as a 3D sound, so that otherwise you're just going to hear it the same in every part of the scene. And if you don't have any, change it to none. So now we have this done, but we're not ready to go yet because we still have this matte plastic material on here. So now we're going to take this biology material, this basically is the screen material, and we're going to drop it on there. So now when we click on the play button, you see that renders real nice on there. And this way it's its own emissive, and depending on how bright that is, it's really easy to go in to the emissive material and drop it down and make it darker or make it brighter, depending on what's going to work for your scene. So now there's this playing video. And this can work with anything as long as you convert it to a video format that's recognized by Unity. The other things to note within that video player is you drop the video clip in here. You can also have a URL. Playing on awake means it will just start to play. You can uncheck that if you need the monitor to be turned on so it can work like a television. You can have a button however you want. And then if it's a short clip that you just want to loop, then you click loop. If not, you turn it off. And do the playback speed so you can speed it up and slow it down. So that's the real basics to this simple adding video to textures. You can do it to different types of things as well. We'll just take that same idea. We're going to add in the video player. We're going to add in the clip. We're going to loop it. We're going to do render texture, fit horizontally, direct. Good to go there. Turn that off. And we're going to replace again the render texture as your render texture that we created, and then we'll drop in biology lab. And now you can see that on this cube, it will play on all sides. So the cube is actually now the video. So this can work on any kind of surface, and I can stretch and I can move that cube to kind of suit how I want it to work. But just a really nice, easy way to add some dynamism to your projects without a whole lot of difficulty, time, or space. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and subscribe. Hope to see you back soon.